This is the most haunted prison in America, Eastern State Penitentiary. Hundreds of people died here over the years, and this place has an incredibly dark history. Eastern State at the beginning had a good purpose. It wanted to rehabilitate people. That's why some of these cells have skylights. But over the years, a lot of notable criminals paid a visit to Eastern State, including Al Capone, who had this beautiful, luxurious cell. Now, a lot of ghost hunting teams have captured strange things at Eastern State. The TV show Ghost Hunters famously recorded a hooded figure running down one of these passageways. And there are parts of the penitentiary that are still off limits to the public. It's actually interesting because Eastern State was the very first penitentiary in the planet, and it's absolutely massive. This place was once home to murderers, deviants, and now it sits in the heart of Philadelphia, completely abandoned. When Eastern State started, they actually had a silence policy. Employees wore slippers on their feet to avoid making noise. Would you spend the night in this haunted penitentiary alone? Let me know below.
Have you done the black-eyed children? No, but technically yes, because I'm doing it right now. If you see children that have black eyes, don't look at them, look away. Don't talk to them. Do whatever you can to stay as far away from them as you possibly can. The black-eyed children is a terrifying urban legend about an evil being that takes on the appearance of children. It's said that the most common types of encounters with black-eyed children are at night when it's dark outside. They might come to your front door, knocking on it, begging to be let in. They might say that they're lost and that they need to come in, or ask if you have a phone that they can use and can they please come in. When you tell the black-eyed children that no, they can't come in, they'll get extremely aggravated. They'll start saying, no, I need to come in. I really, really need to come in. Much like vampires, black-eyed children need permission to come inside. But it's said that if they are given permission to go inside your house, your car, or wherever it is that they're asking you to let them into, nothing good will follow. Do you want to hear about alleged encounters with black?
The unsolved mystery of the smiley face killer. At least 45 deaths of college-aged men have been suspected victims of the smiley face killer. However, police and most law enforcement denied the smiley face killer even exists. The theory originated from two New York City police detectives, Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte. They realized that the deaths of at least 45 young men by drowning had too many similarities to be unrelated. Nearly all the victims of the supposed smiley face killer were white males in college. The young men would be out with friends, then go missing weeks later. Their bodies would be found by a body of water with a smiley face drawn near the body. There was also a theory that it was a group doing the killings, as it would happen on the same night but different area, all with the signature smiley face. All deaths were written down as accidental drowning, and no further investigations were made. Do you think the smiley face killer is real, or just unfortunate accidents?
Disturbing things caught by Twitch streamers. Elagato has these creepy encounters often, due to her stream's open and candid nature. While dressed up as a Wonder Woman for what seems like a convention in Japan, she encounters a few unpleasant individuals before being chased by a man with a katana.
Why is he following us? Let's go this way. Oh god.
They get away, but not before having to seemingly run for their lives for a while, and streaming it all to her followers in the meantime.
These are some extremely unsettling facts, and I found all these on Reddit. One day a woman woke up with a really piercing headache. She thought it was just a normal one though, so she just tried to push through the day. But it only got worse and worse, to the point where she couldn't bear it anymore and she went to the hospital. She would check it out and her worst nightmare would come true. She had a brain tumor, so they removed the tumor, and what they found was really disturbing. This tumor had hair, skin, and teeth. The case of little Albert is one of the saddest cases I know of. Essentially, scientist John Watson wanted to find out if fear was something that you're born with or if it's something that is learned over time. John was also a teacher at a university that had a childcare center. Do you get where I'm going with this? Every single day, John would abduct the same boy, and his name was Albert. So every day around the same time, Albert's mom would drop him off, and then John Watson would go and take him and conduct some terrible tests on him. The main test that had the longest lasting effect though was that John would give little Albert a tiny little white stuffed animal. Albert would love this stuffed animal until John would go behind him with a gong and bang it with a hammer. Obviously this would terrify the baby, and Albert would correlate that really loud loud noise with this white stuffed animal. Thankfully though, one day Albert's mom would find out what was going on, she would take Albert and they would move away. But unfortunately, the damage was already done. Albert adopted a deep fear of anything that was white and loud noises. On top of that, unfortunately, Albert never learned how to walk or talk, and he would die at the age of 6. And many people believe that this is all because of John Watson's testing. Obviously, that's a very dark one, but it makes sense for today's video because
what is the real story behind the haunting of the Annabelle doll? I think most people know about the movie franchise that focused around this doll, but the real doll that this is based off of still exists. The story begins in 1970 when a student nurse is gifted this Raggedy Ann doll and things become very strange. The legend of the haunting reports that the girl and her roommate would come home and find the doll sitting in different positions. There were also several reports of people saying they saw this doll move on its own, but things became even more alarming when handwritten notes start to appear around the apartment, all saying, "Help me." The paranormal investigation team, the Warrens, as well as countless other mediums and other investigators all come in for this doll, and the story that kind of centralizes is that the doll is possessed by a girl with malicious intent who they coined as Annabelle. The doll is taken into the possession of the Warrens and to this day sits inside of their Connecticut museum locked inside of a glass box.
Another one of the world's scariest creepypastas, Eyeless Jack. Point of view, you wake up in the middle of the night and you see this thing standing over your bed staring at you. What you about to do? Disclaimer, we all know this is a creepypasta. This video is for entertainment only. Eyeless Jack is another creepypasta from the world of creepypastas. There's our guy, right there. Eyeless Jack is said to be a humanoid figure with either blue skin or a blue mask, with deep black eye sockets, which sometimes ooze liquid. And he wears an all-black ensemble with a black hood pulled over his head. The creepypasta origin of Eyeless Jack states that he was just a normal college student. Jack befriended a group of other students who were in a cult and they attacked Jack. It's said that Jack didn't survive this attack, but he soon came back to life, his body possessed by some other force, and he got revenge on his attackers by taking their kidneys. Now Eyeless Jack roams the earth in search of more kidneys to take.
Normal-looking photos that have a disturbing backstory, Part 26. While this photo looks like it's some prop from Halloween, it's an actual living two-headed dog that was created in 1959 by a mad Soviet scientist. He managed to create a two-headed dog that could smell, move, see, hear, and even bark. While this appears to be an ordinary doll, it belongs to a Russian scholar, Anatoly Moskvin, who was arrested in 2011 for having the mummified remains of young girls in his apartment. Police found 26 of these dolls in his home. On Christmas Day in 1929, Charlie Lawson would murder his wife, 6 of his 7 children, and take his own life. This photo shows a nice, large family vacationing in Sweden in the 70s. The kid in the brown shirt, however, is a 14-year-old boy named Osama. Years later, Osama bin Laden founded the pan-Islamic militant group Al-Qaeda and was responsible for the 9/11 attacks.
Disturbing things caught on camera. Jen Berari and her family lived peacefully in an isolated barn house until they started noticing strange things. One night, Jen claims that she saw a white figure coming out of the pond. The next morning she heard an unusual banging coming from her living room. To add to that, she saw a mysterious dark figure reflecting on her TV, but what happened after that will creep you out. Take a look.
Guys, I wanted to show you the fucking pond, but please tell me you see that. There's something. It looks like the old man is coming out, I swear.
Follow if you saw it.
Was she a friend?
She was, until she started stealing stuff out of the house. I asked her, why are you stealing? And she said, "I needed money." And I said, "You have a bank account." I was paying her $4.25 an hour just to clean the apartment.
So she was thieving from you?
She was taking from me and my wife, Rose.
Does that warrant killing her?
Huh?
Does that warrant killing her?
Well, to me it did.
Is that right?
No, I went back to clean up.
She was found with her head removed. That's
right.
How did that happen?
Easy. Just pick it up and move it.
What, you just pull the head off?
Yeah, it was already off. You know, We spent a day down Turning Point Park, you know, feeding the ducks and walking around, and we were making out. And then she just flipped, you know, jumped up, says, "I'm going to scream, I'm going to tell the cops." I snapped her neck. Stayed there all day until dark. Then split her open from her neck to her groin. I didn't go all the way deep into the stomach area, just split her open. I don't know why.
Do you ever feel sometimes like you might be a witch? Or be a descendant of the Salem witches? If so, take this witch test and see. Yes, you heard me right. During the Salem witch trials, there were witch tests that were given to the accused. If they failed, they were imprisoned or worse. One way they would see if you were a witch was the skin test, which wasn't much of a test. It just consisted of authorities looking over the accused to see if they had any moles, freckles, birthmarks, scars. Back in the day, this was proof that you were a witch. Imagine being thrown in jail because you got a mole or a freckle. These people were unhinged. The next test was the prayer test, which accused were made to recite prayers or a selection of scripture from memory. If they made any kind of error while they were reciting, or heaven forbid forgot a part of the scripture, we got a witch on our hands. Another terrifying exam was the swimming and dunking test. Accused witches were bound at the wrists and ankles and dropped into a body of water. If they floated, they were guilty. If they sank, they were innocent. But, obviously, no longer with us. And I saved the worst for last, which was the witch cake test. This was where an accused witch was forced to bake a cake with her own urine in it, and then forced to feed it to a dog. And if the dog had any adverse side effects after eating the cake, she was a witch. I told you, unhinged. I can only speak for myself here, but I wouldn't pass. I got quite a few freckles, and I've been known to forget some scripture now and then. If you want to hear more about these tests and all about the Salem witch trials, check out the most recent Avery After Dark podcast episode. I cover it all, as well as some haunted spots in Salem. Do you think that you would pass the witch test?
Hey, look, a pizza! You gotta let him into your house now.
This is a true horrifying story. Part 66. This story happened in the early 2000s. It was late at night. A woman was driving in an unfamiliar area. Her car was old and unreliable, and soon she realized that she had to make a stop for gas. Luckily, she came across a gas station in a few minutes. The gas station was very old-fashioned, in the middle of nowhere. But something about this gas station seems very off. Afraid that she might not find another gas station close by, she reluctantly pulled up and she asked an attendant to fill up the tank. The attendant seemed really nervous as he was filling up the tank, but he finished his job. He then moved towards her car window for payment. She hands him the money. He carefully examined it and told her that the bill was a counterfeit or a fake. The attendant explained that he would have to take her back inside in order to call his manager about the counterfeit bill, as it had to be reported to the bank. She got convinced. She goes inside and sits down. The attendant walks towards the station gates and locks the doors. He turns around and tells her, the bill is not a counterfeit. At this point, she froze, thinking she's about to get abused. He tells her this: I had to get you out of the car because there was a man with a hatchet hiding in the back seat. This kind of crime is very common in the West. It is terrifying to realize that you are driving down the highway for a whole hour with another person hiding in your car, waiting for the right moment.
The Belmez faces. This is like top tier creepy. It's so creepy. So back in 1971, this woman living in Spain named Maria Gomez Camara noticed staining on her floor that seemed to be taking the shape of a face. Even creepier, as the staining got worse, it appeared to be changing positions. She has her family remove the floor, but the staining returns. New faces appearing on the floor. So then outside folks are brought in to examine the floor and extract this piece of it, and then it's refloored again. In a single week, even more faces are showing up on this floor. So after a year passes, a professor decides to research this property and finds that way back in the day, there was a grisly attack on a family living in this home. The floor of this room is removed and they excavate everything and find human remains underneath the house. This never stopped. The faces keep appearing year over year. They've analyzed this floor. This is not paint and it's not the result of external factors. There are still faces appearing to this day.